Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here talking with exercise physiologist and expert personal trainer, Mr. Jon Bula of Vancouver BC. How are you doing today, John?
Great. Finally got over my last cold that my son has decided to give me, so it's feeling good now.
Great. Yeah, a lot of people have had that around here.
Oh, it's tearing through everybody I know.
So we're going to talk about the hot exercise kind of training subject, a lot of publicity, both good and bad, about CrossFit. So what is CrossFit and how is it different from personal training?
Well, CrossFit is a brand. It's a style of training that has a specific philosophy that the people who do CrossFit workouts follow. It's um, it's essentially developed from sort of type military type training programs. They use really high intensity lifts. The exercises aren't exclusive to CrossFit. Nothing they're doing is different than you can do anywhere else as far as strength training exercises go. It's just their philosophy and how they package it and how they deliver it, and then the intensity and the sort of the mental side of things. They try and push you well beyond your limits. And whereas personal training is considerably more individualized, and it's just I try and tell people CrossFit is just a style of training, and that's kind of what CrossFit is.
So with personal training, you're following a bit more of a studied kind of progression, where CrossFit that might not necessarily be the case.
Well, the thing is this: you never know what you're going to get when you go to a CrossFit gym because they're popping up everywhere. It's a franchise. There's no real controls over the quality of the coaches, the quality of the coaching that you get while you're at a CrossFit gym. There's CrossFit gyms with fantastic trainers, and there's CrossFit gyms with horrible trainers. And so you just never really know. When you train at a professional personal training studio with certified and highly trained personal trainers, you're going to get workouts that are tailored to you. And you can't just start doing explosive style Olympic lift exercises if you haven't been prepared to do them properly. If you don't have the flexibility or the mobility or the building blocks, you shouldn't be going into these types of exercises because you're just a recipe for disaster and your body will break down at some point. And so, I mean, that's one of the major differences. Like, say you're training with us, for instance, we can train you in a similar way that you would experience in a CrossFit gym, but we're never going to do that. We're never going to allow you to do that type of stuff until you're ready to do it. And you have to take the steps to get your body prepared in order to do that type of exercise safely and effectively. I mean, if you train super high intensity for 3 months and get injured and you're out for 6 months, what's the point? It's about a healthy lifestyle of regular exercise and achieving your goals and staying healthy.
So it kind of reminds me of, like, with my martial arts background, of some of the gyms that I trained at, that it was like an abomination, wouldn't be too strong a word, of people stepping on top of other people to force them into stretching positions they're clearly not ready for, and injuring them, and forcing people through intimidation to drive out the next set of reps, and your blood stains on the floor everywhere from burst calluses. I mean, it sort of reminds me of that. Is that kind of the...
It can be. It definitely can be. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Um, your mind is capable of pushing your body to extremes, and it really is pointless at some point if your purpose in life is to be healthy and active and live a nice balanced life. I mean, sure, there are moments in your lives where you're pushing yourself beyond your limits, but it's dangerous and it's risky. It's really about exercise and training for most people should be about health and about improving. And you can't force your body into things that it's not ready to do. And that's the number one problem I have with CrossFit, is the kind of cookie cutter style method that they use. They have these workouts of the day and away you go, and and a lot of times there's just, people should not be doing those exercises. There's other more effective ways to get them training and exercising, and better. You get better results, long-term results. So that's probably my major issue with CrossFit, is just the lack of proper technique, coaching, and the cookie cutter style method they use for everybody. And I'm not saying every CrossFit gym is like that, because I actually know a few trainers who do CrossFit and train out of those facilities, and they're high quality trainers. It's just there's no guarantee.
Right. So what's different when someone comes to Groundworks and wants to get into a exercise training program? What are you tracking when you're looking at somebody's progression through their fitness levels and maybe taking them to that level of doing Olympic explosive lifts or plyometrics, high and super high intensity training? How do you know?
Well, how do we know? Because we're professionals in movement, but really it's about going through the different movements. I mean, say you're going to do squat to overhead press with an Olympic bar. Well, if you can't squat properly with no weight and have the right range of motion and maintain proper spine angles and everything that goes with doing a proper squat, why are you putting weight on that and training that dysfunction? All you're doing is making your dysfunctional movement stronger, which anytime you put strength and power onto a dysfunction, you're breaking something eventually in your chain of movement. It's going to be your shoulder, it's going to be your knee, it's going to be your back. It's inevitable. So what we do is we just look at every person individually. Where are you at? Can you move? Do you have core stability? Can you do certain exercises and hold certain postures without weight? And then we do it with weight. And how does it look? Does it follow proper movement progressions? And we would build you to the point where you're doing these exercises correctly, and then the intensity comes, and then the weight gets added on, but your body's ready for it. And now we're strengthening proper movement as opposed to dysfunction. And what you turn out on the other end of that is a highly functional, highly fit, healthy individual. And it can take somebody and put them there, but ready to be there, as opposed to skipping all the precursor steps and going right into the exciting, explosive, high risk exercises. That's just a recipe for disaster. You will get injured, you will break down. A lot of times I tell people, most CrossFit gyms are great for my business, because they go to CrossFit and then they come to me to get fixed. And I can't tell you how many people I've had to do that for. Again, I'm not saying every CrossFit place, but in my experience, the majorities tend to be that way.
So being your own exercise physiologist, if you haven't gone to school for it, and being your own personal trainer without the background in, 20 plus years like you have, or whatever it is probably not the smartest idea. It's like a surgeon operating on himself. Probably not the best choice.
No, normally you don't want to do that. Field medicine will keep you alive, but it's not ideal. Yeah, so my advice, honestly, is find out, if you're doing CrossFit, what type of certification and background education the coaches have. And if they're not teaching you technique and taking you through some progressions before putting you on advanced exercises, you're probably at the wrong place, and you're really putting yourself at risk. And so, if they're taking care of you from that regard and making adjustments to the cookie cutter style workouts and giving you regressions and teaching you proper form and doing the proper building block exercises, then you're in a good place. And, chances are it's going to produce great results for you. But, you really have to watch out for yourself.
So if you want some professional training that would get you to your goals in a way that will make your lifestyle improve, and your attitude and your enjoyment of your preferred activities, whether that be cycling or running or skiing, etc., hockey, etc., Groundwork Athletics are the guys to talk to, and this is the guy you probably want to call, Mr. Jon Bula. So get in touch with him, John at groundworkathletics.ca. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. That was nice to talk to you today.
Yep.